the hidden corridors. How everyday habits become portals for spiritual invasion. We often think of demonic energy as something external, something lurking in haunted places, ancient ruins, or cursed objects. But the truth is far more unsettling. Demonic energy doesn't need to hide in shadows when it can live in our routines, our environments, our digital spaces. It doesn't need to possess your body when it can hijack your vibration. And once your vibration is compromised, your thoughts, emotions, actions, and even your destiny begin to bend toward chaos without you realizing it. So today, we're going to uncover the 7 places where this hijacking happens most often. You've probably been inside some of these places. You might even live in one, but after this, you'll never look at them the same again. The first place is your own mind, especially the unguarded, repetitive thought loops you call normal. Demonic energy thrives in the subtle self-doubt, chronic worry, endless regret. These aren't just psychological issues, they are vibrational entry points. A negative thought, repeated enough times, becomes a frequency. That frequency becomes a habitat, and once it's fertile enough, something else moves in. Have you ever noticed how one anxious thought can spiral into a whole day of despair? That's not just mental, it's spiritual. You're not just thinking fear, you're feeding it, and something is feeding on you through it. We must learn to interrupt our loops, because unguarded thoughts are sacred ground left unprotected, and the entities that feed on them are ancient, quiet, and patient. The second place where demonic energy hijacks your vibration is the digital world. I'm talking about the algorithmic black mirror that stares back at you from your phone. Every scroll, every click, every video that stirs up envy, rage, lust, or despair is not just data, it's ritual. A silent ritual you perform with your attention. Every day. Demonic energy doesn't need to hide in secret grimoires anymore, it lives in your feed. The images you consume shape your frequency. They pull you out of alignment, out of presence, and into a digital trance. And the scariest part, you think it's harmless. But your vibration doesn't lie. After 30 minutes of scrolling, do you feel more powerful, more sacred, more grounded? Or do you feel drained, agitated, and lost? That's not just tech fatigue. That's a spiritual drain. And someone or something is drinking from the well of your energy. Next is perhaps the most deceptive, toxic relationships. These are not just emotionally draining, they are spiritually parasitic. Some people are not just wounded, they are portals. When a person refuses to heal, their unprocessed energy becomes a gateway for lower entities to use them as vessels. Not every manipulator is just a toxic person. Some are being ridden by energies far older than their wounds. When you stay in relationships that constantly pull you into fear, self-betrayal, confusion, or shame, you are not just tolerating abuse, you are feeding a system that thrives on your disempowerment. Ask yourself this: who am I when I'm with them? And who am I when I'm alone? If the answer terrifies you, then you're not just in a relationship, you're in a spiritual trap disguised as love, loyalty, or obligation. The fourth place is the most common but least discussed: your home. Not the physical walls, but the energetic imprint of your home. Every argument, every addiction, every unspoken resentment leaves a residue. Over time, your house becomes a temple or a trap. If you've ever walked into a room and felt heavy, anxious, or cold without explanation, you've already sensed it. Demonic energy doesn't just haunt abandoned buildings, it haunts unconscious spaces. Cluttered rooms, unfinished projects, forgotten altars, places where life force has stopped moving. Your home is a mirror of your inner world. And when you ignore it, neglect it, or let it become chaotic, you are unconsciously inviting in entities that thrive in stagnation. Cleanse your space like your soul depends on it, because it does. Now let's go deeper. The fifth place demonic energy hijacks your vibration is in your addictions. And I'm not just talking about substances. I'm talking about anything you use to escape your present moment. It could be binge eating, obsessive working, endless scrolling, even spiritual bypassing. Every addiction is a ritual of avoidance, and every ritual creates a frequency. Demonic energy doesn't care what you're addicted to, only that you're disconnected from presence. Presence is power. Presence is protection. Presence is divine territory. And when you abandon it repeatedly, something else starts to take your place. The longer you're absent from yourself, the more likely it is that something else is occupying you. Not in the Hollywood horror sense, but in the very real, very subtle rewiring of your frequency. Now I want to ask you something that might sting. What are you still clinging to that you know is draining your soul? You already know the answer. Maybe it's that friend group that never elevates you. Maybe it's that habit you swore you'd quit. Maybe it's the endless need for validation from people who don't even know who you are. Whatever it is, understand it's not just hurting your feelings. It's hijacking your vibration. Your soul knows. It's been sending signals, the headaches, the fatigue, the anxiety, the restlessness. That's not just stress. That's your soul screaming. This is not where we belong. Will you listen now, or will you wait until something darker makes the decision for you? The seventh and final place for now is sacred spaces that have been defiled. Yes, not all places labeled spiritual are safe. In fact, some are the most dangerous. There are meditation centers, yoga studios, even churches and temples that are energetically corrupted. Why? Because where there's spiritual hunger, there's opportunity for manipulation. Leaders who abuse power, practices that open portals without protection, ceremonies that imitate the sacred but are empty of true intention. Not all light is pure. Not all teachers are clean. You must learn to feel the frequency of a space beyond how it looks. Ask yourself, does this space expand me or drain me? Does this ritual connect me or confuse me? Does this teacher empower or control? If the answer leans toward fear, hierarchy, or guilt, get out, fast, because you're not in a temple, you're in a trap wrapped in light. The hidden corridors. How everyday habits become portals for spiritual invasion. Let's go even deeper now, because what we uncovered in the first part was just the surface, the outer layer, the obvious. But demonic energy is not always a loud force. It's a whisper, a pattern, a repetition of the unconscious. And the most dangerous forms of spiritual hijacking don't happen in haunted forests or in the middle of demonic rituals. They happen in your morning routine, in your language, in your relationships with food, sleep, and time. These are the hidden corridors, the places you walk every day thinking they're neutral, when in fact they're corridors where spiritual parasites wait, feed, and grow. You don't need to summon them. You only need to neglect your awareness, and they come. Let's start with food. Yes, food. Not in the nutritional sense, but in the energetic sense. Everything you consume carries vibration. When you eat unconsciously, rushed, stressed, distracted, you're not just feeding your body, you're lowering your channel. Demonic energy thrives in disconnection. And every time you eat in a way that disconnects you from gratitude, from presence, from your body, you open a corridor. Food prepared without love, eaten without respect, consumed in fear or guilted, becomes more than just a meal. It becomes a ritual of self-neglect. And where there is neglect, there is invitation. So I ask you, when was the last time you ate a meal like it was holy? Because it is. Every bite is a chance to raise or lower your vibration. And someone, something is always listening. Now let's talk about sleep. Most people think sleep is just rest. But spiritually, it's transit. You leave your body every night. You travel. You enter realms. And if your body and environment are not protected, anything can enter while you're gone. That's why some of you wake up more tired than when you went to sleep. That's why you have recurring nightmares. That's why you feel watched in the dark. It's not just your imagination. It's energetic trespassing. And the more open you are through unchecked trauma, addiction, or spiritual curiosity, without grounding, the more your sleep becomes a playground for lower entities. Your bedroom should be a temple. Your bed, a sacred altar. But if it's cluttered, chaotic, surrounded by dark media, or filled with unresolved energy, it becomes a corridor, and corridors attract travelers, not all of them benevolent. Another corridor is language. The words you speak are not just sounds, they are spells. Every complaint, every insult, every sarcastic jab is an invocation. You summon the vibration of what you speak. When you constantly say things like "I'm dead," "I can't," "I hate myself," or "I'm cursed," you're not just being dramatic, you're scripting your spiritual reality. And demonic energy listens. It waits for those micro-invitations. It doesn't need a blood ritual, it needs your repeated unconscious agreement. That's why gossip, slander, and self-hate are so normalized. Because the more we normalize low-vibration language, the more we become hosts for low-vibration entities. So pause here and ask yourself, if every word I spoke in the last 24 hours became a spiritual decree, what would my life look like right now? Still with me? Good, because the next one is subtle but deadly. Your relationship with time. Demonic energy thrives in distortion. And time, when distorted by anxiety, obsession with the future, or regret about the past, becomes a prison. Most people live in a state of spiritual time sickness. They're never here, always elsewhere, always running, always chasing. That's not just stress, it's possession. Your present moment is your sanctuary. Your power lives here. But when you abandon it, you become energetically weak. And the more you abandon now, the more something else begins to live through you. That's why presence is so rare, because it's the one thing that lower energies can't exist within. They need you to be mentally elsewhere, spiritually scattered. Because in presence you are divine, in absence you are vulnerable. What have you been running toward or away from, and has it cost you your now? Now let's talk about media, music, movies, shows, even memes. What you laugh at, cry over, or nod along to becomes part of your coding. Music especially is a frequency weapon. Words repeated over rhythmic beats bypass your conscious mind and implant directly into your subconscious. If you're constantly listening to songs about murder, lust, betrayal, or despair, what do you think your vibration is being trained to mirror? It's not about censorship. It's about sovereignty. You have to ask yourself, is this content calibrating me to my higher self or to my lowest instincts? Because every time you consume something unconsciously, you're not relaxing, you're ritualizing. And if you do it daily, it becomes a spell you live inside. And demons? They love music, especially when you don't know what you're singing along to. Finally, and perhaps the most overlooked corridor, is unresolved trauma. Not just the pain you remember, but the pain you bury. Trauma creates an energetic rupture, a tear in your field. And lower energies are opportunistic, they enter through those tears. That's why healing is not just therapy, it's exorcism. Every time you face your pain, you are closing a portal. Every time you forgive, not to excuse, but to free, you are sealing a spiritual wound. But when you avoid trauma, deny it, or decorate it with fake positivity, it festers. And what festers attracts. You don't need to be perfect to be spiritually protected. But you do need to be honest. What pain are you still hiding from yourself? What wound have you spiritualized instead of healed? Because that is where they wait. Not in the dark, but in the denied. The final purge. How to spiritually cleanse the energy parasites in your life. Now comes the sacred work, not just seeing, but clearing. Awareness is the first step, but it is not liberation. If you've made it this far, you're not just curious, you're ready. Ready to reclaim what has been siphoned from you. Ready to seal the leaks in your field. Ready to stop being a passive participant in your own energetic reality and become the sovereign force you were always meant to be. So how do we purge these frequencies? How do we cleanse what we can't always see? You don't need complicated rituals or ancient scrolls. You need intention, attention, and alignment. Demonic energy cannot survive in a space of sustained clarity. It thrives on distraction, distortion, and delay. It dissolves when you become fully here, fully you. Start with your space. Clean it, not just to organize it, but to exercise it. Speak aloud to the walls. This space is mine. No energy resides here, but that which serves my highest vibration. Burn herbs not just for aroma, but for command. Sage, Palo Santo, mugwort, these are not trends. They are tools. But they only work when wielded by someone who believes they are a vessel of divine will. Then cleanse your body. This is your first temple, and every demonic imprint left on you lives in your muscles, your breath, your sleep patterns. Start to sweat fast. Breathe deeply. Cry without apology. Movement is exorcism. Stillness is medicine. Speak affirmations not as pretty words, but as declarations of war. I revoke all permissions I've unconsciously given to energies that do not serve me. Say that sentence like your life depends on it, because vibrationally, it does. Cut cords, not just with people but with patterns, with identities, with versions of yourself that were built in survival and trauma. Every time you say no more, the spiritual parasites lose ground. They don't need to be confronted with anger, they need to be confronted with clarity. Don't fight darkness with darkness. Flood it with light so brilliant it has no place left to hide. That's not metaphor, that's physics. And your energy field is always listening. But the most powerful purge, the one no entity can withstand, is alignment. Live in truth, speak truth, choose truth even when it costs you comfort. That's what seals your field. That's what makes you spiritually untouchable. Not perfection but congruence. When your thoughts, words, and actions form a single, undivided current, nothing can hook into you. That's why demons target self-betrayal, because it opens the door. But when you live in radical self-honesty, you become a light too bright to parasitize. So ask yourself this final, eternal question. If I align fully with my soul, what would I have to walk away from? What would I have to give up? Who would I have to become? Answer that and you will begin the purge, not just of demonic energy, but of every lie you've ever believed about yourself. This is your moment, not to be saved, not to be healed, but to rise. And when you do, they won't just retreat, they'll remember who you are.